Happy 4th of July, everybody. I'm Wyatt Watson. Welcome back to another episode of Through the Gears as we get you set for the best bets going into the only street course race of the season in Chicago. I'm going to be joined by Dalton Hopkins in this episode, and I'm excited and thrilled to have him on for the second time this season. And he will also be at Chicago, as well as Brian Nolan, who hosts Happy Hour. Excited to have him on the show and get through our best bets. Tyler Reddick, Shane Van Gisbergen, and you see on the bottom of the screen there, got a lot of big names that are going to compete for the win in the 41 car field. Somebody's going home on the open cars. But in the meantime, Atlanta wasn't a great week for us. Down the worst we've had this year at about 28.5 units. Just could not get away from the big one there, but we still have our in-season tournament winner intact, and Tyler Reddick had a strong performance there as Chase Elliott took the win for his first time this season and second time on the new layout at Atlanta. But in the meantime, we're going to the Windy City. We're ready to make some fiery bets here, and I'm excited to see what we got this episode. So join us as we go through the gears. Joining me now is the writer of Thinking Out Loud, and you can find him on Happy Hour as well. Fronstretch's very own Dalton Hopkins. Good to have you back on the show again on Through the Gears. How you doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. I think we're gonna have a great weekend. We were just talking about it. I think we've got a very interesting one on our hands up here for this weekend in Chicago.
It's going to be fun, but we also had a great race at Atlanta as well. I can't ignore the fact, even though I got freaking tanked by the freaking big one that happened with 20 cars. Everyone that I picked was involved in that wreck. I'm sure everyone's bracket is busted as well, thanks to the wonderful Ty Dillon in the 32nd seed. But honestly, Chase Elliott, that crowd, that whole atmosphere, he was at 18-1. That ended up hitting. And what a storybook ending for that race and that run for the 9 team. And really, I mean, a lot of the conversation is now, is that going to spark his run for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I'm actually really curious. Believe it or not, I was just you were talking about Chase Elliott. I was just looking at some of these odds, and very interesting. I like to think Chase is probably on a high of momentum right now. I mean, I got to imagine that team is probably going to be, or we might see an uptick of performance in that team. We're also going to a road course, and I know Chase Elliott hasn't won in the next gen car at the road courses yet, but he's got a lot of history at those tracks, right? He's got a lot of history on being on the road courses and being an ace on the road courses. So, I don't know. Maybe he's one to watch here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I recall the runs he's had in the next gen era. I mean, Road America 22, fighting Tyler Reddick, Michael McDowell Indy Road Course, where he almost caught him for the win. But yeah, I mean, Chase Elliott is definitely someone to watch in a 14-1 to start this weekend, to go back to back for sure. But rain definitely plays a factor into who we're both really looking at in this week. But rain or shine, we have to pay attention to the man on top, and that's Shane Van Gisbergen. He opened at 3-1. Now he's at freaking 2-1 odds. Like, that's like I'm looking at top 5 numbers with the same amount of odds that SVG has to win. And really, and I got by him at Mexico City when he was as high as plus 375 after practice. This week, there's no way we can deny or ignore him, especially at the track where he won in his first attempt in the NASCAR Cup Series at the Chicago Street Course.
No, look, do you remember that commercial? It was a while ago, but do you remember there was that commercial? It was a Tylenol commercial, and it was like interviewing, like the joke was like they were interviewing a bunch of drivers, and all of like the big drivers were like, "Yep, we're gonna run for second place today. We gotta go for second place because that's as high we're gonna get. We're gonna get second place. That's all we're gonna do." And that number 2 spot is mine. Like, and it was like the joke was like Tylenol was so fast that it would always win. Like, it'd always finish first, but like so fast relieving. But like that commercial is what I'm thinking of when I think about this weekend, because I feel like everyone else is just running for second, especially after what happened in Mexico. Holy cow, man! Like
Was it
I'm looking at the
17 seconds? Steven Stumpf got the stat from it.
yeah yeah
It was the
six.
largest lead ever in the
It
next
was
gen era.
yeah for sure by far. I think it was the largest since. Good lord,
2008 or 9, something like that.
yeah, it was a while. It was a long time. I'm looking at the odds right now. It was 16 seconds. I'm looking at the odds right now. For top 5, he's minus 295. You
God.
actually lose money. You lose winnings if you bet on it to
Well,
get top
well,
5.
you
So
wouldn't lose. It would be a fraction of a winning.
yes,
That's
yes, exactly. It'd be a fraction of a winning. Like that is absurd. Like and it's man, what a pick. But you know what? You know what? We were all saying the same thing last year too for Chicago Street Race, and it didn't work out for him in the end.
that Saucy Nugs car would have made a great
Hmm.
race winning diecast,
Yes, it would
honestly.
have.
But yeah, I mean he made his own mistake in that what treacherous, it was turn 6 is the treacherous turn, right? At the other end of the track that meets the
Counting
front.
them in my head right now, and that does sound correct.
I
Yes.
just I just remember Bagley just calling, "Oh, turn 6, we have another one in the wall." Kyle Larson's big impact in the barriers. Oh my
I
gosh.
just remember the
That is
first year was Noah Gregson's plight. He just hit the wall every 5 laps.
that windy sponsorship has to be a curse at that track. I'm
It's
just
cursed.
saying, the
Hmm.
Baconator, the Saucy Nugs. I don't know. Are we getting a Takis car? I don't even know. I haven't checked
We
this.
might have a Frosties one. I don't know. I need to look at the paint
I'm
scheme
about to say,
lineup.
watch out, Ross Chastain.
Yeah, if there, yeah, don't bet on the Wendy's car. It's
Don't
cursed.
bet on
There's
the
something
Wendy's
going on there.
car.
Yeah.
I'm about to say, I'd have to double check the entry list while we're talking, but to see if he's doing Wendy's, but that's just superstition because SVG obviously is going to be big. Some of the
Mhm.
contenders, I mean, just looking at the board, Christopher Bell at plus 750, Kyle Larson at 10-1. He looked great last year. Ty Gibbs, look, I mean, the books over is correcting their stance on him going at 12-1 here after what he showed at
Mhm.
Mexico City for pretty much 3/4 of that race. And then you have Tyler Reddick as well, joining him at 12-1, and has been a consistent contender, finished runner up here last year to Alex Bowman. Look, those guys for sure. Those are the guys that could totally take it over SVG if things work well for these drivers.
Yeah, if SVG gets into some kind of trouble like he did last year, I could definitely see Ty Gibbs. I completely overlooked him. That's a great observation there. I mean, especially what happened with Mexico. We know that he's good at road courses for some reason. He's good at road courses, so I yeah, I think that's a fantastic pick to be a challenger against SVG. I've also got a couple of other guys on here, and I'm looking a little bit further down when it comes to challengers. AJ Allmendinger, 25 to
Yeah.
1 plus 2,500. I'm really surprised by that. And that's to win, of course. That's outright winner. So I could definitely see him making a run for it if Shane has some kind of issue. And then another guy I've got on my eye on, Chris Buescher, has the highest average finish on the road courses in the next gen car, 22 to 1. I seem to recall the only driver that has actually gone toe to toe with SVG on a road course and beaten him was Chris Buescher at Watkins Glen last year. So keep an eye on him too.
Yeah, Chris Buescher, I definitely took a gander at for sure. Just that was an unbelievable finish. I'm saving my ammo for him at that track or even Sonoma. He's had really good runs at Sonoma before.
Hmm.
But joining him again, like at that same number, Alex Bowman 22-1. He opened up at 10-1 earlier in this week, and now DraftKings has him back at 22-1. If this thing goes wet, I mean, Alex Bowman proved it once, he could prove it again
Hmm.
at these, and he's always been a great road course racer, and once again in the same position as he was last year, a year now to the day or to the week where he hasn't won a race, looking for really redemption to silence the doubters once again, coming into Chicago 22-1. It's just a fantastic number for him. William Byron, his teammate, 18-1. I mean, that pretty much sums up all Hendrick Motorsports guys 22-1 or better. Byron, it's just tough because I've been hoping and I've been betting Byron for weeks on end. It feels like this doesn't seem like the track that Byron's going to come in and really shake things off here at Chicago, especially after what I saw at Mexico City.
Yeah, I have to agree on that. I think, man, it's been a lot of tracks where I feel like he should have won since the Daytona 500. Since his win in Daytona, there's a lot of tracks he should have won at, but he just hasn't broken through yet. So, and I agree. I don't think this is the week that he does it. But you know what, man? I think a lot of people were saying the same thing about Alex Bowman last year, and sure enough, look what happened. So I don't know. It's you mentioned the weather, and we were talking about it before the podcast. I think would you say 80% chance of rain now?
80% chance of
That is
thunderstorms and
something to
showers.
take into account. You got to
Yeah.
take a look at that, for sure. You know what? Now, I'm going to mention one more guy. If we're talking about rain racing, you know who is accustomed, who's raced in the rain before quite a bit, actually in his very long career, Michael McDowell, 25-1 as outright winner. That surprises me because I seem to recall he's a fantastic road racer and he's been really great on the road courses, especially with the next gen car. He got that win to Indianapolis a couple of years ago. So I'm surprised he's that low in the odds. And I think if we start seeing raindrops, if we start seeing some wet racing, I think McDowell makes the charge to the front.
Yeah, McDowell definitely is on a short list for me too. Looking at his odd at 25-1. I was about to mention him too. I mean, he's always shown to be really fast once the rain starts falling. It's just a matter of can he beat the rest of those guys like a Reddick and Gibbs, and things have to work out. And I'm about to say, I looked at the entry list. Number one, we can close the Wendy's loop out. There's nobody in the Wendy's ski.
They learned. They must have learned.
They must have learned the lesson to not have. I mean, shoot. I mean, what was it? Chastain was in Atlanta and got absolutely demolished. So
yeah.
He's like, I want to see a Wendy's victory lane car, but we're not anywhere near there. But I'm about to say he's gonna run I'm excited to see what the DePaul scheme looks like for Michael McDowell. DePaul University he's gonna sport this week. But at the same time, 25-1 and him being such a great road racer already, add rain to the mix, it'll be interesting to watch him. You know who else is going to be interesting and quite curious to watch is going to be Will Brown, 35-1.
Yeah.
Also coming from the Aussie V8 supercar scene, and he's raced before at Sonoma and didn't have a really good running. Now he's going to race with Colleague Racing, and again, I mean, Colleague Racing has the speed in their cars as shown by SVG last year. And he's going to be in the 13. Yeah, an extra operation for that team. But Will Brown, again, he's gone toe-to-toe with SVG plenty of times in their careers on the other side of the world. So coming back to Chicago, that's someone I have a close and watchful eye on. He opened at 14-1. He's all the way down to 35-1. I think you're not going to get a better number for Will Brown at all going into Sunday. And frankly, I think you could take a gamble on him as well going into this race. Another guy joining him there is Ross Chastain at 35-1. Now he hasn't been great on the street course, but he has shown that prowess on road courses in the past. Obviously, winning at COTA is one thing, but really, I think Chastain could be another guy we could be watching here, Dalton.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Ross is one of the road courses too. He's had success in the road courses, so I mean, might have been a vastly different one. But look, at this point, we could keep naming names all we want, but at the end, I think what we were talking about here is not Atlanta type crapshoot, but we're getting pretty close to a possible crapshoot. I mean, you take SVG out of the equation, suddenly everybody else's numbers go way up. So, and I do want to mention Will Brown. If you're gonna bet him, if you're gonna pick him, do it now because I am predicting a very strong qualifying run out of him on Saturday. I gotta imagine those odds are gonna improve drastically post qualifying on Saturday. So don't wait till before the race begins.
Yeah, absolutely. Just we could just name names all day with how crazy the race could get. Austin Cindric has good numbers. with almost average range of 10.5
Yeah.
at 50 to 1. I mean, you have Carson Hocevar is going to come back with 50 to 1 odds this week. Somebody else I was looking at with Ryan Preece, who ran solidly, surprisingly at Mexico City at 110 to 1 odds. And there's people all the way down to 250 to 1 odds you could definitely consider if really it's all about SVG and some of these contenders running into trouble like we've seen on these ring courses. It's pretty much going to be a crapshoot towards the end. I mean, hell, Justin Haley almost won here in 2023 with overextending conditions with the sun going down and NASCAR not really having a procedure for that. Luckily, the start time pushed up 2 hours will hopefully help out with that uncertainty this weekend. I'm about to say the 2 hours, how much does that really buy for not just the odds, but just for the races in general come Sunday?
Yeah, I think what I was going to say, I think it takes the shenanigans out of the equation. It takes the nighttime impending darkness shenanigans out of the equation. Thank God. Cuz man, look, I like it when I like chaos. I really do. I love chaotic races. I love it, but not really when it becomes when you have to mess up a bunch of other drivers' strategies, and like what happened in 23 with Christopher Bell, and ultimately that completely ruined his race. I don't like it when that happens. I don't like it when when it makes NASCAR look bad. They have to make a decision like that. I think last year's worked out a lot better, but thankfully they've learned and they said, "Hey, we're going to race somewhere, which means that naturally there's going to be a monsoon popping up right above us." So at that specific location. So I'm glad that they finally learned and said, okay, we're just gonna move it up a little bit. And I am really excited to see what happens. You said it. We were talking about it earlier. Oh no, I was talking about it earlier on Trey Lyle's show, on his radio show. But I think this is the potential for NASCAR to have a fantastic race. Probably the best showcase they've had at Chicago. Don't know if it'll finish that way. We'll see, but yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I don't know if that really changes the odds, but I will say that you could also just throw out everything that we've talked about when it comes to previous Chicago races and how these drivers have performed, because these drivers have never gone the full distance race at Chicago. So we don't know how they'll react after 100 laps on the street course.
Yeah, we have no idea, but we'll see how that unfolds come Sunday. If I'm about to say the storms could push it anyway, and we're still screwed with the overnight finish. Well, I'm thrilled really to see what potentially the final installment of this race could definitely bring to the fans and for us and our pocketbooks this weekend, which will go straight into our race winning picks. Now, I'm going to just throw it to you, Dalton, because your guess is the best as mine here when it comes to the winners. Who you got for the Chicago street race?
When it comes to who's going to win this race, it's going to be SVG. I can't imagine. I got to imagine he's probably on your list too. When it comes to betting, though, when it comes to betting favorites, I really do like Chris Buescher. Man, I say that a lot, but I swear I feel like he's secretly really good, especially when it comes to these road courses. And like I said earlier, we've seen him take it to SVG before and beat him on a road course. So, and I like his odds too, 22 to 1. Those are some pretty fun odds. I like that a lot. And then also, if we're gonna go, I'm gonna continue just basing this off of drivers who have beaten SVG or have seemed to be faster than SVG. Ty Gibbs, 12 to 1, not as fun as Chris Buescher's odds, but still showed some crazy speed at Mexico. So I'm really interested to see what speed he carries going into Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. Ty Gibbs is definitely Ty Gibbs is I'm gonna start him. He's on my list too at 12 to 1. I put 3 units just to get the max value out of that, just because if I want anyone to win just for value's sake, it's Ty Gibbs at that number. And he's been very quick, very fast here. He also finished third here after starting second in 2024. So he stayed up there in the rain and as it dried out as well. So in any condition, I'd want Ty Gibbs. But yeah, of course, SVG is absolutely going to be on my board even at the 2 to 1 number. I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to have him off my board anymore. If I'm going to stretch my picks, I'm gonna take Alex Bowman at 22-1, the defending winner. Just 22-1 isn't out too far out of the way for him, but if I'm gonna go with somebody that I want super big value for, if we get a chaotic race here, and I mentioned him earlier, I'm gonna go Will Brown at 35-1.
Yeah.
I think for him, I could put 1 unit on it and be completely okay with him. And Colleague Racing, again, they were able to race up front with Brown. I mean, he has AJ Allmendinger as a teammate as well to get him around this place. I think Will Brown definitely could figure this out and potentially, I mean, it'll be his second start in the Cup Series, but could certainly pull off a big upset here at Chicago Street Course. If I had to take someone way, way out there, don't forget who else is going to start in this race, and that is Corey Heim at 150-1. Did you see the master class that he put at Lime Rock Park?
Wow.
He is already primed for road course racing from Lime Rock. So 150-1.
Wow.
I mean, he opened up at 60-1.
Sneaky pick.
I'm gonna even extend it to a fifth. I think put 0.5 units on him for 150-1. What a max! That's a max day if he gets in that 67 Robin Hood car. God, that would be a nutty freaking paint scheme to win there.
Sneaky pick. Yeah, I can see that too for sure.
I'm about to say, you got anyone else here that any big call out?
Any outliers like that? I'm not so sure. I'll tell you what, I do have a couple underdogs, and honestly, I'm just gonna narrow it down. It's Legacy Motor Club. I'm looking pretty heavily at John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones, maybe more specifically JHN, but they're both at the same odds, 250-1. And I think it's just because those LMC, they're just on a high right now. Those cars have been running really fast. I've been very impressed with their speed, having a much better year than last year, which, I mean, the bar was pretty low, so you couldn't get much lower than that. But having a great year, and I know they're not really known for the road course prowess, 100% agree, but hey, neither is Alex Bowman, and he won last year. So I feel like this race is, we go back to the crapshoot, and I feel like if there's a team that can really capitalize when it comes to chaos and chaotic races, LMC, Atlanta. Eric Jones got a top 5. The Daytona 500 earlier this year. JHN, Jimmy Johnson, both got top 5s. So I like LMC. I think those guys can capitalize if this race gets wacky.
I'm going to and that's a perfect transition into our prop bets, because John Hunter Nemechek is on deck for my prop bets here. At top 10 for him is 9-1. Remember Mexico City, he finished 6th.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could put him on a top 5 watch too, if we're being honest.
Have to agree.
Him, and then another big surprise was Cole Custer. He's not on my list this week, but he did win the Xfinity race here and their inaugural run at Chicago Street in 2023. I think he's also at 9-1 as well for a top 10. I think he'd be a substitute or somebody to watch if he does. I say 1 to watch if he gets a top 10 qualifying again. Though you're not going to see 9-1 for the 41 car.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just John Hunter Nemechek as well. He's got a second place finish here before in the Xfinity series as well. And again, coming off of Mexico City, I'm surprised to see him that high at a 9-1 for the top 10. Other guys, I might as well stay on my Heim train here with the prop bets. Heim in a top 5 is 22-1, and I put a half unit on that. And his top 10 is also 7-1. And I could see, I feel very confident in his top 10. I put a unit and a half on that. And then Tyler Reddick, again, I mean, I already have Gibbs at the win, but the guy I'm really on the fence with, and I had him on my list before we really delved into the rain conversation and expanded our list here. Tyler Reddick is right off on the cusp of my list. I might as well put him on a top 5 and narrow him at plus 180 with a unit and a half bet off Bet Rivers. So Dalton, who you got on your prop bets, because it could be anyone at this point.
Yeah, I get a lot more excited when I look at the prop bets, for sure, because the outright winner is like, man, those are some pretty high odds. But the prop bets, you still got some pretty solid matchups here. I mean, I already mentioned LMC. I just want to mention those. Eric Jones for top 5, 42 to 1. I don't know, man. I think that's a pretty solid. He's just coming off a top 5. JHN 28 to 1. Those LMC in the top 5. So I think those guys are that's a pretty solid. Those are pretty solid lineups there. Uh, I think if you want to get a little bit safer, Ryan Preece 22 to 1. Had a pretty strong run, was having a pretty strong run in Mexico. I feel like he is having a fantastic year. I don't feel like we have seen completely what he can do in the road courses yet. I know we had Coda, I know we had Mexico, but I liked what I saw out of those 2 showings for him. And also, he's just had a fantastic year. So I feel like Ryan Preece every week at this point is somebody to watch. And one other thing I want to mention with him is that he's a modified racer. Modified cars usually run at tracks that are very flat and low banking. What kind of track are we going to this week? A street course, which is very flat and has no banking. So I could definitely see Ryan Preece showing off some really solid skills this week and potentially getting a top 5 at 22 to 1.
You know what else really helps him out is that the same car finished top 5 with Joey Hand last year.
There you know what? Yeah, excellent point. Excellent point. Completely forgot about that.
Yeah, and Priest, I'm about to say Priest just narrowly misses my list just because I have to back my boy after calling him out of Corey Heim. But really, the same odds for both the top 5 and top 10 for Ryan Priest. Definitely a great substitute that I would certainly endorse for this race. I'm excited to see what happens in the Cup Series race. Xfinity, it's going to be drier. It's going to be probably more predictable with either SVG, who is in the field for that race, and Connor Zilic being top contenders in the Red Bull WeatherTech duo cars. I'm not gonna look at the race winning odds for Xfinity because I feel like I'm gonna get nixed by both of those guys. Instead, I'm gonna look at a prop bet in Xfinity. Austin Hill, look, he's been really good on the road courses, very, very quietly good. He got a top 5 at Mexico City. He's had a top 5 here in Chicago previously. His top 5 odd plus 250, better than taking Zilic or SVG on the race winning odds. So why not take a top 5 on Austin Hill for this race? Keep it plain and simple for that. Dalton, what's a good play you like going into the Xfinity race on Saturday, which will be much drier and much hotter?
Yeah, both those things. Yeah, looking forward to it. But it's funny you mentioned Austin Hill, and I'll get to the Xfinity pick in a second here. But you mentioned Austin Hill. Just out of curiosity, I actually saw him on the list here, so I looked at the top 10.
Yeah,
the top 10 prospect for because he's in the Cup race on Sunday too.
Race, yeah.
17 to 1 to get a top 10.
Ooh.
I know that 33 car hasn't run well, but this is Austin Hill at a road course, and he's run some pretty solid road course race. He's won on a road course before, so I can see him potentially getting a really solid finish. When it comes to Xfinity, though, I'm looking at these odds, and we were both just laughing at SVG top 5 minus 1,400. Insanity. At Connor Zilic minus 700, and then everyone else is just in the pluses. You also have looking at the race winners though. When according to DraftKings, that is, when it comes to the race winners, Shane, I just want to point out, so SVG is minus 115. Then you have Connor Zilic plus 130. Okay, I don't think anybody can really argue with that. Then the third highest, Sam Mayer plus 1,400, 14 to 1 for the third highest driver on this list.
Diabolical.
Wow, just diabolical. That's I mean, because it's like SVG, Connor Zilic, the rest of the field. That's who cares about anybody else. I'll tell you what. If we're gonna pick somebody fun to win, I'm looking at Jack Perkins mostly because I don't know what he can do. It's his first Xfinity race, if I'm not mistaken, and it's his first Xfinity race. 14 to 1 in a Joe Gibbs car. Not a bad deal. And he comes from the world of supercars, just like SVG. I don't know. Anytime an Aussie driver, anytime one of those Aussies V8 supercar, the Kiwi guys, anytime they come in, I get a little bit excited. We talked about Will Brown earlier. I get a little bit excited when these guys come into the sport. So, especially on a road course, I really like to see what he can do. So, I'm interesting. I'm very interested to see what he can do with that plus 1,400 with the 14-1 odd for Jack Perkins in the 19.
Yeah, Jack Perkins kind of caught my eye. I mean, Ty Gibbs as well in that 19 car ran super well before.
Hmm.
I mean, that same team we ran really well at Mexico City, even competing with Connor Zilic in that race. I think just SVG is going to be tough at this track specifically. I mean, you don't have a Kyle Larson coming in here too, which that was a great battle. I'm actually really intrigued to see if Jack Perkins can get up there or if Connor Zilic, we get a Connor Zilic versus SVG thriller with those two awesome looking paint schemes. I'm gonna get color blurred looking at both those cars all weekend. But I think another guy that you could possibly look at for an option on a top. I wish they had a top 10 option for him right now.
Yeah.
But for a top 5 option, hey, take a look all the way down at Austin Green. I mean, he's been really well on these road courses before. He's top 5 before. I think at Sonoma in the past, and he's 18-1 to get a top 5 finish this week at Chicago Street. That's great odds to potentially get. I mean, that's race winning odds if we were looking at the rest of the field for the rest of the contenders to Zilic and SVG. So 18-1 Austin Green is a secondary option I'd take for sure for the Xfinity Series. But boy, if this is the final week that we get of the Chicago Street Course, it's going to be a freaking banger. And Dalton will be there to cover it this week. Dalton, thanks for taking time out of your day, out of your week to come on to Through the Gears for another week. Tell the people where you can follow and what you got coming next for Fronstretch.
Yeah, I actually have an article coming out tomorrow morning on Army veteran combat engineer, the Bubba Wallace's crew chief Charles Danique.
Wow.
So yeah, I know. I think not a lot of people know about his background, but man, Army diver. I know you know what that means.
No, I know what I'm about to say. I'm former Navy myself too.
Oh,
I know
yeah,
what a diver is. They're badasses.
They are crazy. The stuff they got to do. So if you could check that out tomorrow on 4th of July. That was planned. Yes, that was on purpose. It's going to come out tomorrow morning, 4th of July, and then
this weekend today because
today. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
The episode will come out on Friday.
Come out tomorrow. On 4th of July. So happy 4th of July, by the way. I'll be spending my time watching the fireworks from a plane, looking down as I land in Chicago, which is where I'll be covering the race. Look at that transition. So I'll be in Chicago covering the race with the wonderful Brian Nolan. Very unfortunate I have to spend the weekend with him, but that's how it is. That's the way them's the breaks. But yeah, we got some. So I'll have a sidebar coming out after the Xfinity race on Saturday, and the one after the Cup race on Sunday. We'll not be doing thinking this week. So, but yeah, and got some good stuff coming up, and you can check all that out. You can follow me at Pitlane CPT for all you guys who are actually watching the video. It's right there, and then at Pitlane CPT, and then you can also follow along on all of our coverage on at Fronstretch as well.
Awesome. It's great to have you again here on Through the Gears, Dalton. I'm Wyatt Watson. You can find me at Wyatt W Racing. I'll be covering the IndyCar race remotely. I'll be doing qualifying and the recaps. If you want to check those out later on the weekend, you can. Be sure to check out all the other Fronstretch podcasts, including Happy Hour with Brian Nolan hosting this week, Michael Massey, and then yours truly with Dalton Hopkins here and guest Josh Newby. So be sure to check out that. Also, be sure to check out Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle hosting Bringing the Heat this week, and check that out. The Pit Straight as well, as we covered the Austrian Grand Prix with Alex Gintz and Peter Malloy on that podcast. And then I will be hosting Stock Car Scoop this week, for filling in for Caleb Barnes, and Adam Cheek will join me for that as we recap whatever the hell we're gonna see at the Chicago Street Course.
It's gonna be up in the air, man. It's gonna be a fun one.
It's gonna be fun, man. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited for that, and I'm looking forward to making some money in the Windy City. Thanks for joining us on Through the Gears.